Hello, class. So today I'm going to be doing the book review, and the book that I read for this was The Healing of America by T.R. Reid. It looks like this. And I chose it because it was the one that I had to choose. But I also think that healthcare is something that really needs to be addressed and is not right in the US right now and is not being the best that it possibly can be. Um, Going into this, I expected someone, maybe a politician or someone that just does research and is just throwing a whole bunch of information at you about different healthcare systems in the world. I didn't expect something that was maybe a little more personalized and not necessarily just numbers. I expected something that wasn't going to be easy to consume, whereas this book was really easy to read. I really understood everything that was being said, which is a lot, because a lot of these books get very technical, and for the average Joe, that's really hard to understand, and it makes people not want to read about it and therefore aren't informed about healthcare in this case. The most important thing I got from reading this book is not necessarily what the US healthcare system is like, because I live here and maybe I don't have all that much experience about it, but I have seen it work in some situations. But I really got to see in depth of how other big healthcare systems in the world work and the different models that they follow. It's not just every government being like, "Oh, hey, this is it." There's models that have been put in place that a lot of healthcare systems follow. Maybe not to the T, but they follow along and are established systems as to where something is changing all the time. So I really did like this book. It was really good. Like I said, very easy to consume. And so really this book, it was about T.R. Reid, so an retired retired military from the Navy who has a shoulder issue. So not only was he just, researching, he had a shoulder issue, and he went to a doctor in the US who told him he needed to completely have his shoulder replaced. And he did not believe that that was the best option, and that was the first option the American doctor gave him. And so he decided he wanted to go around and take this opportunity to see both how he can heal his shoulder personally, but also, get ideas of healing America, as the book is called. And so he went around, and this book didn't just go in depth of the history of these models and healthcare systems, but it also talked about his experiences with the doctors and the healthcare system, and whether he had to pay or not. If he did pay, how much was it? And, in some cases, how did he wait? How long did he wait? So it was both personal and a lot of information all at once, which I thought was really good because the personal broke up, all the numbers and the hard, deep waiting through this kind of information. And so the thesis of this book, and this is a quote from T.R. Reid from page 11, chapter 1, which was A Quest for Two Cures. He said, quote, "The thesis of this book is that we can find cost-effective ways to cover every American by borrowing ideas from foreign models of healthcare," end quote. And I really do think that he did a good job at putting the thesis of what this book was about. It wasn't about, just going around and learning about all these different insurance and healthcare systems. It was really about discovering what's out there and what's different compared to what we have. Because the US doesn't have everything. And that's what I really liked about the book is he really did go out and look at what else the US could implement to really help our healthcare system. So I really do think he did a good job at supporting this thesis by putting a lot of numbers in there as well. He wasn't just taking random facts and stuff. He did his research and was able to at the end of the book, he gave a lot of information on articles that you could go further look into where he got his information from, like the numbers and stuff. So he really did do his research, and I think he did a good job at supporting his thesis. So one of those numbers was that the U.S. health insurance companies deny 30% of all claims, which is crazy because in other countries, claims can't be denied. Like in Canada, no claims are denied. They're all processed. And so the fact that we're paying more for private insurance and we're not even covered on everything is just crazy considering we're, the richest country in the world. And another thing is 45 million Americans are uninsured before the Obamacare reform. So this book was written a few years ago before Obamacare was set in place. And so before that, there were around 45 million Americans that weren't insured. And then they estimated that after this reform took place, that 23 million would not be insured. So the number did drastically decrease, but it's still crazy that one of the richest country in the world, the most industrialized, still has 23 million people that aren't taken care of for a basic human right, which is healthcare. No one should die because they can't afford to pay their medical bills, or no one should have to go bankrupt. And so with this, the U.S. is ranked 37th in a Harvard medical. So a professor did a study through the Harvard Medical School and ranked the U.S. 37th in access to and quality of the medical care. And this was in 2000. And so 37th, that put us just behind the Dominica and Costa Rica and just ahead of Slovenia and Cuba, which is crazy because these countries are not as well off as we are. It doesn't make sense that our health care is ranked so low, especially when we pay so much. So the U.S. pays about 16.5% of its GDP, and this was in 2005, towards healthcare. And that is the highest number that any country pays for healthcare, whereas the next country down that pays the most is France, and they pay 11%. So for how much that we pay for our health, we are not getting the quality that both we're paying for and that we deserve. Every human deserves the right to have medical care. It's not right that 23 million people aren't insured and will have to pay out of pocket if, God forbid, they do have some sort of health crisis. And so in this book, like I said, he didn't just go country to country and explaining their different systems. He really explained the models that these systems were based off of. So there are 4 main models for healthcare, and the first one he talked about was the Bismarck model, which is really found in Germany and Japan, are some of the biggest countries that this is in. And in this model, the healthcare provider and the payer, so your insurance company, are both private, which we have privatized insurance here in the United States. And this is paid for by payroll deduction. So someone's not going out and having to pay after. It's just automatically taken out of what you're being paid. This healthcare covers everyone and is nonprofit. So the insurance companies are not making any money off of these people who are paying these premiums. Whereas the United States healthcare system, they're making money off of what we're paying because they don't cover every claim. And this is a multi-payer model with tight regulations to make sure that people are not charging out of the roof for medical care or medicine or anything, to make it more affordable and able to handle. The next model that he talked about in this book was the Beveridge model, which is in Britain, which you see through the NHS, which is the National Health Service. And this is financed by the government through taxes. So this is not private. and the clinics are owned by the government, therefore making doctors government employees. Um, this makes it so that it's low cost per capita, so it's not very expensive to pay for each person. And the government controls what the doctors can do, like what kind of procedures are covered and how much they can charge for them. So someone can't charge more than it's one payment for anywhere you go. And so that is really important because it makes it so it's fair for everyone. The next model was the National Health Insurance model, and this is really seen in Canada. So the providers are private. So, our hospitals and doctors are private. And the payer, so the insurance, is government run. And all the citizens pay into this. And so they pay into this with a monthly premium. But with this, there's no claim denials. And again, the insurance is non-profit. They're not making a profit off of this. And it's single payer and they limit services that they can pay for, or they have people wait. And that's their big thing there. And then the last model was the out-of-pocket model, which is seen in most of the world. It's in a lot of poorer countries like rural Africa, China, India, South America, and all those other rural places. And this out-of-pocket pretty much means the rich get care and the poor stay sick or die. And this is because all services are paid directly out of pocket from the patient. So there's no insurance, no one helping. It's all paid by the patient, which is really hard because healthcare is expensive. And like I said, T.R. Reid did all this. He got all these numbers from reputable sources, and they really supported these models in the fact, mostly the numbers, like the U.S. being ranked 37th in the world for healthcare, but we're the top payer with 16.5% of our GDP going towards health, and so it was just him informing of what's out there. And so my reaction to this book is that, there's no healthcare system out there that's better than another. They're all good. And so, well, they're not all good, but there's not one that's the best. They all have their issues. They all have their good things about them. But what I did find important is that there's no reason that the U.S. should not implement some of these models. There's some countries like Taiwan that looked at many nations' healthcare systems to make their own the best that it could be. And so I don't understand why we do not have the best healthcare, since we, one, are paying the most, looking at GDP wise, and because, two, there's no reason that not everyone should be covered. And there's no reason that insurance should be a profitable thing to be in. It should be non-profit, because what it's there for is to be a pool so that if I do get sick, I was paying into this pool and it should be covered. There's no reason my claim should be denied because I've been paying into this pool. So I really didn't disagree with anything that he had to say, because he didn't make assumptions. He didn't say the U.S. should do this, this, or this. He kind of left it open to the reader, which is what I liked, because he just informed of what was out there and what he learned. So I think he did a good job of it. I mean, I haven't read any other book or read really into any of these healthcare systems specifically in depth, but I do think what he had to say was good information. And this text, I think, for someone, a young reader like myself who maybe wants to go into politics, I think it's a good way to spark a fire under someone and help them understand, this is not a single source. There should be multiple sources read to decide what you believe in. But I think this is a good source to, set a fire under someone and get them passionate about something and be like the first dip into healthcare in the insurance system in the United States. So again, I think that TRE did a good job at showing that there can be more cost-effective ways to cover every American by looking at different healthcare systems that exist. And I really believe that this did a good job at informing me of what's out there and what can change. You know, nothing's perfect. And it really surprised me that the US was ranked 37th. And I think that's just it's not a good thing, you know, especially with how much we're paying with 16.5% of our GDP towards healthcare. We should, since we're paying the most, we should have the best care. And, you know, I think this is a good way to get someone sparked into social work and being interested in helping people. Not just the less fortunate, but everyone, because everyone, it is a basic right in my belief that everyone should have access to healthcare. You know, there's no reason that someone should pass away from a treatable disease or a curable disease. So this book did a really good job at teaching me more about global healthcare and, you know, how our healthcare system can change and how it is not perfect. Thank you. Bye.